Hey everybody, thanks for joining. We're going to be removing this motorboard, main board, control board, motherboard, whatever you want to call it, out of the base of this Bally Aladdin's Castle. It's an electromechanical pinball. It's pretty nasty as far as dirt and garbage and everything else. We haven't messed with it yet. We're doing some stuff with the play field. We took apart the bottom of the play field as well as the top. Did a bunch of stuff in the back box, showed you how to rebuild steppers. Today we're going to be getting this board out. We're going to strip it down because we're going to get this all cleaned up. And for me personally, it makes it easier to clean all these switches and everything. Some people can do it while it's down in the cabinet, which is not that big a deal, but my back hurts after a while. So how are we going to get this out? Disconnect everything that's keeping this board in here. On this particular one, you have, I want to say 4 bolts basically holding it down with the washers on the side. Some of these you have 2 or 3 screws running through the middle. They're big flathead screws. We have to disconnect this set of Jones plugs. This one, we're going to take out the power switch that's under there. Anywhere that it's tying in somewhere else on the game. This tilt and fuse block, this whole board. We'll just disconnect this. We've already disconnected the pair of Jones plugs that's on that cable. I don't know if you can see them hanging there. Those were plugged into the back box. And leave this set here that also goes up to the back box. We're going to pop those out. All you do is pull up on those. We just did a video on Jones plugs. Pull those out. So I'm not going to record that process because there's no sense in, I'm just going to do exactly what I just told you. There's not that much to it. So we'll get that out. That board, I'm going to probably guess weighs, I don't know, 40-45 pounds. Somewhere in there. Depending on how many player they have, you know, different weights. But we'll get that out and show you what the next step is. Alright, something I'm going to point out, at least on this Bally, because I happen to be looking at another one right next to it. Took out the bolts, disconnected everything, and I'm pulling up on this board and it's not coming. You had 1 screw, or bolt rather, 2 bolts. You had 4 bolts. That. I'm looking, the hell can it be? This screw here is just a quarter turn that helps you pick up the motorboard. It's 1 screw down here. You see how, sorry for the bad light, this is holding down a wire strap, a wire loom. This one is going to nothing. So if you're ever pulling up on these things and it's not coming, you think you got everything, there's something else holding it down. Makes too much sense, right? So that's a big old wood screw. And look, I thought, well, maybe they just put that there. But then I look over here at Captain Fantastic. Look how dirty this thing is. This is even worse. There she is. There's your bolts. You got the 4. You got essentially 1 on each corner. And then that guy right there. I only pointed this out so you don't start pulling and break something. So, pulling these out of a later model Bally. Watch for that. Alright, let's keep going. Alright, so our motor board, mech board, that's out of the game. Not that much to it. Keep in mind that if you're taking that out, most cases you'll have to remove the back box from the game so that you can fit the cord through, because the cord has a slot between the head and the cabinet. I just cut the end off so I don't have to do that, but that's because I'm replacing this power cord. So now, one of the best parts of that is seeing what treasures are in our cabinet that we've accumulated over the years. What do we have? We have some, looks like some mouse nesting, maybe. Some kind of sunflower kernels or something that something was eating. What's this? We have a spring, possibly to a flipper at some time. Maybe it's one of these fell off when I took the flippers apart and haven't noticed it yet. But save all the little parts, because they may go somewhere. We have a lock nut. Shit, you never know when you need a googly eye or an eye from a stuffed animal. Interesting. We're gonna set that in our interesting pile of things we find in these games. Always put your playfield glass somewhere where you're not going to kick it like I just did. What else do we have in here? Let's see if we can't scoot this. We have coin machine lubricant. Well, some kind of animal. Probably mice. Look at the poop in there. Bally coin machine lubricant. That's kind of cool. But they like this plastic and apparently the lube. Who knows how long that's been in there. We have a couple light bulbs. This can go in the garbage. We have what's left of a solder roll. That's pretty heavy. It's not a spring, just a wad of solder. We've got some emery boards that somebody tried cleaning some switches with. We have some various nuts down there. Let me see if I can get a magnet. I still have the playfield in this. I'm just trying to do it without falling on my head. Alright, let's get our magnet. We've got two more nuts. One is a locking nut. The other one is not locking, but it came off of something. There's a screw. Instead of putting my hand in all the mouse turds, well, at least sweep it out of the way, and this will all get vacuumed up. So I'm curious if any actual damage was done to the game and the wiring. I guess we're gonna find out. Or if they just like to eat lube. Ew. So we'll put these in our little pile. Interesting things that you find. We'll run a vacuum, get all that crap up. If we paint this, we'll take all these original labels off. If, we'll see, we don't know yet. So, all right, let's start breaking down this this board. All right, we got our motor board out and on the bench, also known as a toolbox. We're going to start with just observation. Let's take a look at this before we take anything apart. Okay, here we see a missing screw, so it's possible that it's one that we found in the bottom of the cabinet. What else do we find? Found some mouse poop. So as I'm looking over this, I'm looking for signs of obvious mouse damage. Mice-like wires, especially plastic ones, which most of these are, because this is a newer EM game. But what they also tend to like is this wax string that they wrap these wires with, the wire loom. They like to chew that. So I'm just doing a quick once over. Here's a broken wire. So we'll have to figure out where that went at one time. Obviously something to fire this extra ball relay. So either this broke off, so the extra ball relay coil doesn't activate, or the operator disconnected so you couldn't get an extra ball. We'll have to figure that out. Looking for any wires that are off. Mouse damage. We'll just go down the line here. I'm looking at this basically the first time, just like you are, but I won't drag into a whole ton of detail. Light bulb. Something else for you to think about as we go through this. Why is there a light bulb down here? So you could see these relays and everything better when you're working on them. I'll tell you in a minute. I'm just doing a real quick once over. What's this? Is this colored wire or is this bare wire? No, that's bare wire. I don't know if you can see that very well. That is not black with a silver stripe. That is wire that mice have chewed the insulation off. There's some chewed paper. It's probably from the owner's manual, or let's see if I have it handy here. Look at this. So this was in the game. That's mice. So that one wire. Just trying to eliminate problems down the line if we find the stuff now. If this isn't touching anything, it's not really going to hurt anything, but we're going to fix that anyway. Nothing hanging off the switches. Motherboard, that's the ground from the power switch. Okay, coming down this side. There's another light bulb. Alright. Piece of string. It's probably from the paperwork envelope. Okay, look at our lugs on the transformer. It's probably just one or two mice in here. At least it wasn't a whole rat's, you know, a whole nest. Okay, here's our power in on the bottom of the transformer. We're going to replace this cord. This is a 3-prong with a ground lug just to the transformer. Just a note before I cut the end off of this power cord, the ground prong broke off, but it is an actual 3-wire. So we will put a 3-prong back on it. And I'm not sure exactly what year they switched them over, but the ground prong was probably broke off because they wanted to plug it into an outlet that didn't have a ground. So instead of using an adapter, it's easier to just cut that ground leg off. Okay, the game is set up for normal voltage. This red wire here would go on this lug if you wanted what's called high tap. Give you a couple little extra volts. It does provide a little power, but these days we have more than enough juice coming through the lines that you don't need that. Okay, looking at our Jones plugs, the female end here. We'll get those cleaned up like we did in the last video for the ones in the back box. Look at this. I had a piece of tape holding this together, these two boards. Alright, looking at this unit, so I put a piece of electrical tape on this, probably because it's pulling away, because the screw is missing here, and that's not going to make good contact. So chances are that probably just needs a screw. Doesn't look too bad, at least just from this really quick overview. So I was going to talk to you about these light bulbs. Well, there's no electronic circuitry in this game. It's all switches, steppers, and relays. So what would a light bulb be for other than to see things? Well, in this case, GE, General Electric, 455. If you can look inside the bulb, maybe. Let's see if I can get a good view of it. See that? Looks like a little razor blade in there. A little piece of metal. It has a slight bend. That warms up and it gets hot and it breaks contact. This is a flasher bulb. So what happens, I'm going to blow this delay relay, and over the top, what's over the top? Over the top is on these games, for Bally calls it over the top. Let me show you. You've got 5 places, 4 of these are score reels. This is a dummy 0, just to make the score look bigger. So think 1202 in this case. But anyway, if you're good enough that you get cycle this all the way around at 99,990, your next is going to be 100,000. Well, this is just going to go back to 0. Instead of putting in another score reel, they set this up where you go over the top, meaning you spun this thing around, so you're beyond 100,000. Well, you'll have 100,000 lights somewhere, and when that goes off, it wants to let everybody in the arcade know that you're kicking ass. You went past 100,000. So it's going to attract attention. How does it do that with just a light? It has this guy right here. This is a buzzer. Very similar to a clothes dryer buzzer. That's what it sounds like. And I've shown it on a couple games before. The Bally Old Chicago has it. This is Captain Fantastic. It's got one even though it's disconnected, because somebody didn't want to hear that. But the way that circuit is going to work is you're going to hit your 100,000, this relay is going to pull in, that buzzer is going to buzz. How? Not doing it again. So how do you shut that off? Because it locks on with one of its own switches, and it activates this light bulb in the process. Well, this light bulb is wired in series. Check it out. It comes off of this blade of the switch, comes out in series with this light bulb, and it goes, well, through a series anyway, pulls in this coil, and it completes a circuit. So once this heats up, being a flasher, that circuit breaks. That will release that coil, so you don't have that damn buzzer going the entire time. So they're using it as a circuit break, essentially. It's so simple, it's ingenious. So if you have a Bally game that has an over-the-top buzzer, or your delay, and you never noticed you've hit over 100,000, check that bulb. That bulb may be bad. Do not replace this with a 47 or a 44, you know, a typical playfield bulb, because your buzzer is going to go off, but it's not going to shut up, because that's not a flasher. And if if you come across these 455s, hang on to them, because these are going to become gold here. You can't use an LED in this place. Okay, if you just want to keep the simple light bulb circuit, it has to be the incandescent 455 flashing. So, cool. Got that out of the way. On to the next. I think what I'm going to do is we're going to clean these switches up. We're going to run a file in between each one of these contacts, check the movement, check the adjustment on both banks of relays. We'll get all this stuff cleaned up for the most part now, and then you don't have to do this unless you want to, or if it's completely dirty. It does not affect gameplay, only affects aesthetics. Is I'm going to strip this board down. We're going to get this all cleaned up, 'cause I want this one to look nice. We're obviously going to have to do the same thing with Captain Fantastic when that time comes. So I got plenty of videos of cleaning these relays. I will come back and show you if I see something that looks really weird. Otherwise, I'm going to get this cleaned up and I will catch back up with you as soon as I get something else done here. Okay, we got this control board, motor board, relay board. People call it different things. We've got it apart. And we've got the harness all off. We took out all the screws. There's probably 100 of them or so. We put a new power cord on the game, so we just cut it off the transformer. There's all your relay banks. Everything's still tied on or attached, but we're going to clean up this wiring harness and we're going to clean up the board. We took the switch tacks off the motor. So we'll get this all cleaned up, degreased. It looks more complicated than what it actually is, but once we get these motor stack switches, they're a whole lot easier to, once we get these off of here and cleaned up, they're easier to look in, clean. We're looking for any missing lifters, which this one doesn't appear to have any, which is good. There's a wire to nowhere. I think we pointed that out when we went through this then, and probably just wasn't hooked up to anything. We've got the board, a physical piece of plywood. There are some T-nuts in the bottom for a few of the screws. You can take those out if you want, but I really don't see a reason to. We're going to clean this up, get rid of all the dirt and stain. Took pictures of everything before we took it apart. Still have the labels on here. We're going to take the staples out of there, clean them up. These boards are what the banks of relays sit up on. These are the risers for them. That would sit like that. And that. This guy sits up here. Like so. So just a little riser. And this guy would sit over here on its risers. That's the lockdown for the score motor, so you could tip it upwards. We're going to get these label strips off of here, soap it down, and start cleaning. We are outside, if you haven't noticed. It's about 90 today, 90 degrees. A little bit cooler now that it's getting to late afternoon and we're in the shade, but if you're going to wash a wire harness, I'm just basically using soap and water. And it's supposed to be hot here the next few days, so for the most part it'll be out just drying. I suppose inside would work just as well. Maybe not as fast, but it's not like I'm looking to have this game back together tomorrow. It's got plenty of time to dry. And yes, you can wash the stuff with soap and water. It's not going to hurt anything, at least as long as you let it thoroughly dry. So I'll get these label strips off, and we're going to start cleaning. Let's go. Okay, we got our labels off. Pretty sure you can find reproductions of these, otherwise maybe I'll have to figure out how to make them. Try and keep it somewhat authentic. Sometimes on the labeling, if I have to, I'll just make with the label maker. But I want to try and keep this stuff as... This isn't going to have to stay original because this is all dirty and nasty. But keep it authentic as far as the actual cards. So what we're going to do... Got a bottle of some, this is Simple Green. Sometimes they use Crud Cutter, Dawn dish soap even. This isn't really deep grease or anything like that. This is 50 years of dirt. We'll get that up. Get that all cleaned up. And then I'll end up putting a sealer or a Varathane or something on the wood. You don't have to do all this. This is just because I'm insane. Yeah. So if you can get the game up and going and that's good enough for you, then more power to you. You'll be playing a lot quicker than I will be when you start doing this. Just don't get yourself in a jam where you're not sure what to do. We got plenty of forums and Facebook groups and YouTube videos on how to do this. This is exactly why I'm recording this. I know you didn't see me take the whole harness off, but that's just taking off about 100 screws. We slide the harness onto the table. I'm gonna spray everything down with a degreaser. I'm gonna let it sit. I'll probably take a little brush to it. I'm going to be more careful around the paper for the wrappers and stuff. You know, it may end up losing the label here. It depends. But this is just going to be hit it with a garden hose to clean it up. No pressure behind it. You can, if you really wanted, you could take the whole harness and throw it in your dishwasher. I would run another cycle of just water afterwards, just so you don't get any extra unneeded grease on your dishes. But the board I'm probably going to hit with a pressure washer because it can take it and it gets a little bit deeper clean. So I'll start spraying this down. Okay, spraying down the harness. Not going to hurt anything. There, you can see it is rolling off. It's definitely going to clean it better than just blowing air on it. But we take a soft bristle brush. These usually come in the 3-pack from Harbor Freight. You got a steel wire, a brass or bronze wire, and then you got this nylon. You can use an old toothbrush or somebody's toothbrush that you dislike. Don't use a metal brush on your wire harness. I was going to say for obvious reasons, but in case it's not, you could poke through a wire. You could get little bristles that break off and stick in places, causing problems that are going to cause you insanity. So just use a soft bristle brush. It's non-conductive. It's not going to hurt anything. So I'm just going to give this a light scrubbing, just enough to loosen dirt, and then we'll hose it off. All right, The weather lied. I thought it was supposed to be 90 for the next few days, as we talked about, but the next day and after that, it decided to just pour all day. So it's been a few days. I kept it out in the garage here, and we got some sun coming in, so it helps. But I don't know if you could tell, so much cleaner and nicer. You know, still give everything a wipe down as we put it together. Nothing drastic. I mean, I said that as I just washed this with degreaser and water. We'll get all these the Jones plugs cleaned up. We did do the one set. Forgot to go back and do this set when we did the last video with the Jones plugs. But I'll get this all wiped down. See, this is a plastic bristle from that brush in my switch stack. Now, what would happen if that was metal? That could be a problem. So here's our boards. Check this out. Nice and clean. So this is a little rough. I'm just going to run a quick sand over it. I may clear a coat. We'll see. There is no reason to do all that. Okay, even cleaning it up. I just like to do it because that's what I do. And kind of OCD doesn't help. But if you look over here, this is another, we got some bingos out here. And a 1934 Bally Fleet. These have to get in the house at some point. But if you've ever picked up a bingo, the bodies aren't usually all that heavy. It's the weight of the head. It's where most of the weight is. But anyway, we have our game cards here, or what would mount on the control board. There is there's a couple places online that you can find these. You just print them out on some a little bit heavier stock than just paper. You can staple them down. I may even print out the new ones and kind of clear coat them onto the board. We'll see. I don't know. I could just be talking out my ass here. I don't know. We'll see. So you could definitely tell a difference, but remember, that's what the board looked like. So let me run a quick sand over these boards, and we'll go from there. Okay, we got our labels on. It took some cutting and some fitting. Remember, we had to reprint in the right size. But the copy place is very cool about it. They actually reset the scales and printed it to the correct size on 11 by 17 heavy card stock, and then handed me the envelope. They didn't charge me. I think it was maybe just to get me out the door, so I'll shut up. Anyway, we got our two risers mounted. There's our lift handle. That's the score motor lockdown bar, essentially. And we're going to take it over to the table. We went through every one of these Jones plugs, every switch, cleaned it all, and should be good to go. I know there's still a couple wires that we pointed out in one of the first parts of the video that still need to be soldered, but let's put this harness back on so we can get it back out of harm's way here. Let's go. Okay, everybody, we're back for the last video of this control board for a 76 Bally Aladdin's Castle. Went through every switch, every wire. We took everything off of the board. We cleaned it. Did a quick sand down of it. Put some clear coat on there. We got new labels made up. Everything's mounted. Went through all the Jones plugs. We fixed the one wire that was broken here at this extra ball relay. Check out those shiny new labels. I stapled them down, even put some clear coat over them. I went through this Aladdin's Alley adjustment, or not the adjustment, I'm reading this and looking at this. But this changes features of that of the Aladdin's Alley. Put a new power cord on there. This is grounded. It did have a grounded cord on it, so that's why I replaced it with a 3-prong. So this is a 18-foot cord, I believe. 16 or 18, I don't remember. Do they need to be that long? Nah, not really. Not usually, anyway. So, go through and I will put a couple drops of oil in the motor if it does have the felt pad. But I haven't even heard it move yet, so it may also be fine. Here's your power switch. Okay, so this board is ready to go back into the cabinet. So we're going to keep moving forward on this game. I'm going to call at the end of this video. And I did want to mention, I have to place my order, but I'm going to replace this fuse holder. Why? Just because Bally fuse holders have a tendency to suck. So I'll replace that. I gotta make sure this is the right size fuse. I usually just replace the fuses anyway. And if I have to, I'll make mention of something else that I may have forgotten in the next video. But as for now, I'm gonna call it and say that this board is ready to go back in the game. So I appreciate you guys for taking the time to watch, as much as I hope you appreciate me taking the time to film this stuff, record it for you. You know, sometimes for a lot of people it's boring, but this is pre-electronics, so this whole thing can be summed up in a couple circuit boards now. There's a lot going on, but again, I thank you guys, and just know that you are much loved and appreciated just for hanging out with me here. And I will hopefully see you on the next one. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.